Hi, today I'd like to share with you some few tips on how best you could mitigate entrepreneurial stagnation. No doubt about the fact that entrepreneurial stagnation is something which, in one way or the other, some entrepreneurs often find themselves in. That is, they get to some stage, they realize the business ain't really growing, and in one way or the other, they couldn't really find out what exactly is the rationale why this business is not growing. Today, I'd like to share 6 tips that has often been known to be the major cause of entrepreneurial stagnation. And in major instances, some of these points has actually led to a crippling of organizations in such a way that those organizations would have to fold up. So the first out of those points is narrow business model. There has been instances in which organizations or some companies have their models designed in such a way that they can't actually thrive. That is, they can't actually scale, and they more like operate within a specific cubicle, sort of, and they couldn't really go outside that cubicle, which has to do with the business model they operate on. So first thing is, when you're experiencing business stagnation, the first thing you want to do is you want to go down to your business model. Is your business model actually designed in such a way that you can thrive, in such a way that you won't be able to mitigate stagnations or perhaps mitigate any form of inflection point? Number 2 has to do with unexploited markets. There are instances in which you see organizations with very great product, but you realize they're experiencing stagnations. And the reasons for experiencing such stagnations is because they haven't explored markets beyond their comfort zones, or perhaps beyond their areas, beyond areas which they know, sort of, and which I as well could refer to as a comfort zones. Don't be surprised that there are organizations with good products, and perhaps they'll be servicing their state, the state to which they currently reside. And let's assume in that state they have 20,000 people, 20,000 inhabitants, sort of. And at some point, they realize perhaps their product is not, as a result of, they're servicing this community or this state for over a period of time, but now they've been experiencing business stagnation. They've not been actually making much revenue as much as they used to, and over a long period of time, they will choose to maintain the status quo like that, without taking time to exploit regions or perhaps states outside their region. For instance, there are some companies, ordinarily in their major dominance, they might be generating 20,000 as revenue per month. And when they choose to exploit, to try out their product in other regions, don't be surprised they might be raising like 50,000 on a monthly basis as revenue. And in addition to this 20,000, that's 70,000. But because of the fact that they choose not to go outside their more like comfort zone to exploit what's actually happening in the other region, they wouldn't be able to see the market for their product. And thus, before you realize it, they'll be like, oh, they are making 20,000 before, now it's 15,000, and now it's 10,000, and they'll be like, oh, we can't actually sustain this anymore, and they end up folding up, or perhaps sustaining stagnations over a long period of time. So you want to ask yourself, are you actually exploiting market beyond your comfort zones? You might want to explore the market in other places in which your product might not only be serving as a want, but rather as needs. Also, you want to ask yourself, are you leveraging on technologies, that is, the latest technologies, in relation to your product? Don't be surprised that there are some products, for so long, their packaging has always been the same. And it's not as if there is no other opportunities to enhance their packaging, or perhaps the way they showcase their product. it's still more of as if it still reflects that they are not using the latest technology. Don't be surprised, there are other competitors who are actually using nice product. I mean, who are showcasing their product in such a way that it's actually adding more values to the buyers. I mean, the buyers or the consumers or the end users are actually finding much more values in more like the technology, which is reflected in the product. So you want to ask yourself, your product, is it reflecting the latest technology or it's not reflecting the latest technology? When I mean the latest, I mean it doesn't have to be, okay, the current technology that's, I mean, I don't have to use the machine that's actually the latest or that's just being manufactured for my product. It could be, I mean, something that's more like last year or previous years, but at least it should reflect that you are in sync with the reality in brand when it comes to customers' expectations. And aside that, money value incongruency. And money value incongruency is something as well that's often common in such a way that you see instances in which people would go ahead and market a product and they're like, okay, this product is $20 or perhaps, yeah, or £20 or 20 euros. And people would actually find, I mean, it takes the light in the product. Oh, this is a nice product. But before you realize it, when they try out the product, they realize they couldn't get the value of £20 or perhaps 20 euros, but rather, it's, I mean, this product shouldn't be worth 10 euros because the quality is not there. So you want to ensure that your money value incongruence is always intact. I mean, your money value congruence is given attention to, because when your customer sees that the money they pay, they find value in it, no doubt about the fact that they would be glad and they would love to patronize you, they'd love to refer you. But in instances where there's no money value congruency, then there will be a problem in one way or the other. The customers would not be interested in patronizing you. They would not want to buy your product, and before you realize it, you're in one way or the other having your product, I mean, your business in one way or the other shortchanged or perhaps sabotaged. So you want to ensure you give attention to money value congruency. Another thing is innovative blockage. These are as well observed that there are instances in which people, perhaps entrepreneurs or even business people, unconsciously, they sabotage themselves in one way or the other. How do I mean? There are instances where thoughts or perhaps innovative ideas could want to come in, but they just block it out. Simply because, I mean, they are not receptive to innovations. They're like, oh, this wouldn't work, this wouldn't work, this wouldn't work, this wouldn't work. And before you realize it, perhaps years later, they would like, oh, wow, this idea comes up to me sometimes ago, and I just like ignored it. So you want to try as much as you can to ensure you are not blocking innovations. That is, you're receptive to innovations. And another thing is organization internal congruency. You want to ensure that your organization's internal congruency is intact. That is, what you projected out is in sync with who you are. I mean, in sync with what your organizations are. How do I mean? There are instances in which some products, you have some products that are indeed, they are very nice products. And it's, let's take for instance, you said there's feedback loop for your business, sort of. And I mean, you try out your customers, you have great product, but in one way or the other, there is no way your customers could give you feedback. And even if there are instances in which your customer gives you feedback, it doesn't reflect because you don't consider the feedbacks of your customers. And before you realize it, it's going to affect your product or your service. And that's where organization internal congruence as well. Internal congruence should play a major role. And it's all reflects on your policies, the policies which you operate on as an organization. And also you want to ensure that whatever it is you're projecting out in relation to your product, you want to ensure that's what like the value, you're telling your customers, okay, this is who we are. It should more like reflect in every segment of the organizations. In every department, there should be congruency. And before you realize it, when the congruence is not there, it's going to affect your service, it's going to affect your product. And by the time you begin to experience entrepreneurial stagnations, if care is not taken, you get to an inflection point. And from inflection point, if care is not taken, the business would have to like be, the business would have to like go down the lane. And no doubt about the fact that you wouldn't feel good to see a business you've actually invested in over the long period of time to go down the lane. So if there's anything you're going to do, for me, it's kind of ask yourself, my business model or my business generally, is it experiencing stagnations or not? So if it's been experiencing stagnation, perhaps these few points might actually be of help to reflect on and see how best you take your business from a stagnation point to a more thriving point. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you in some other short course.